Okay, so now we're going to do some more star practice. This one is going to be actually a paired text. So it is going to be two pieces of fiction. Prince Patrick, short story, and also a wintry welcome, another short story. And this one has a drawing that we can kind of help visualize some of the imagery that she's talking about. So we get our brain ready for fiction, and that means plot diagram. We're looking at characterization and the elements of plot. When there's a paired text, they will always ask for how are the texts similar or how are they different. They'll ask about maybe theme or conflict because there's something that ties those two texts together. So we're going to be looking at plot diagram. Remember, rising action, falling action, climax, conflict, and characterization. Okay, let's begin. Remember, I'm going to read several of these lines to make them a paragraph and then annotate. So after I say stop the recording, you annotate and then check your work afterwards. Prince Patrick. No, Tiffany said. When you sip from your cup, you have to stick your little finger out like this. She pointed her pinky into the air. Let's play something else, Patrick begged, rubbing his leg that was jammed underneath a tiny table. Drinking imaginary tea from a plastic teacup with his sister Tiffany and cousin Annabelle was not Patrick's idea of fun. Let's play Save the Princesses, the girls shouted. Patrick sighed. This is not how I imagined I would be spending Saturday afternoon, he thought. Usually his mother watched Annabelle when Aunt Elizabeth worked, but not today. Okay, we're going to stop here, and you stop the recording, and then we'll check our work for annotation. Okay, you may not have the same exact thing right here, but I just wanted to point out, when you hold your drink and put your pinky in the air, usually it's kind of the girl thing. And he's not clearly doing it correctly. Also, it says that playing is not his idea of fun. And finally, this leads me to infer, all this decoding leads me to infer that he is babysitting the girls, but he doesn't really like it. Okay, line 6. Patrick had been in the middle of a great dream when his mother shook him awake that morning. I had to work overnight, Mom whispered, and I need to get some sleep. Will you please watch your cousin and sister for me? Annabelle will be here any minute. Sure, no problem, Patrick told his mom. This should be simple, he thought. What was I thinking? Patrick muttered as the girls dumped out a bag filled with brushes, barrettes, and ribbons. Patrick had expected to turn on a movie to keep them occupied. That would make babysitting easy. But the girls were more interested in tormenting him than watching a movie. Now, braid our hair so we look like beautiful princesses, Tiffany demanded. Okay, we're going to stop there and just kind of annotate and check your work. Okay, so when his mom asks him to watch the girls for her because she had to work overnight and she needs sleep, he instantly says, sure, no problem. He doesn't complain to his mom because he thinks it's going to be easy. He says it should be simple. But then he says, what was I thinking? As they take out all the brushes and barrettes and everything, he's thinking, I'll just throw a movie on, but that's not what they want. Now they want him to braid their hair so they look like princesses. Patrick didn't even know how to braid hair. He attempted to work the girls' locks of hair, but found the hair to be as slippery as a handful of wet noodles. Finally, with the help of an online video, he managed to intertwine their hair into braids that looked fairly neat and even. Patrick actually felt impressed with his handiwork. The girls chatted about Patrick's work as they positioned shimmering crowns on their head. Patrick hid a smile. Holding out sparkly wands, the girls dashed behind the chair and calling to him, Save us, Prince Patrick! Tiffany and Annabelle's eyes twinkled. Patrick paused. Might as well make this fun, he thought. Okay, right there, that's a little bit of a Here we go. If this is all rising action here he is making a decision right here, and we usually call that something. That's a little bit of a hint. Go ahead and stop and start annotating. Stop. Okay, so you should have underlined that he didn't know how to do it, and it was slippery as a handful of noodles. It's very hard to do braiding if you've never done it before. But then he felt impressed with the way he had done it. The girls liked it, and then he thinks, might as well make this fun. Turning point, that's that change, that's that difference from in the beginning. Then he says, might as well make this fun. Patrick gathered some items from the kitchen. He threw his mother's apron over his shoulders, straddled a broom, and raised a spatula in the air. Prince Patrick, to the rescue, he cried as he galloped across the living room. Take that, you evil dragon, Patrick called out, whacking an imaginary dragon with his spatula and throwing open a pretend gate. Stay away from my princesses. You saved us. Thank you. You're our hero, the girl cheered. Patrick's mother stood at the doorway like a fly on a wall, surveying the scene. Mine too, she added. Thank you, Prince Patrick. Okay, so you should have looked and or made a note that he also is playing now too. He's getting into it. Might as well make it fun, so he's starting to play. The girls love it. You're our hero, they cry. But unknowingly, he doesn't know this, but his mom is looking like a fly on the wall. She was standing there watching, and she says, mine too. You're my hero too. Thank you. She loves that he did that for her and for his little sisters. Okay, so as we move on to the next passage, we're going to be trying to make some connections here too. Same type of thing, characterization, plot diagram, rising action, climax, this conflict. Try to figure out what's the motivation of these characters. A wintry welcome. And I'm thinking somebody or something is going to be welcoming the cold, because that's what wintry means. When we moved to Minnesota, I was intent on transplanting Charlie into the garden of our new house. Charlie was the cactus I dug up from our yard in Texas right before we moved. I wanted something to remind me of the home I had reluctantly had to leave. Right there, the first paragraph is telling us a lot. Go ahead and stop and we'll annotate. Okay, so you should have noted that first sentence that she says that we moved to Minnesota from Texas. And I was intent on transplanting Charlie. Charlie is the cactus. Transplant, I looked it up to mean to move from one place to another. And she said she wanted something to remind her of the home that she reluctantly had to leave. Reluctantly means that she did not want to do it. She is unwilling. She had to leave, but she wanted to have something with her. Okay, so I yanked open the front door with Charlie cradled in my arm. An express train of polar air blasted me in the face as I stepped into the porch. The temperatures had been frigid the past few days, but overnight the landscape had been transformed into a world of white that blanketed every surface. The wind crammed icy fingers down the back of my neck. How do people live in such harsh environments, I wondered, recalling the warm Texas sun. Yeah, we're all familiar with that warm Texas sun. Okay, go ahead and stop. Annotate. Okay, so we should have made a note that frigid is very cold. Also, she uses a metaphor with icy fingers cramming down the back of her neck. It was the wind that was doing that. So the temperatures obviously are very different. Okay, moving on. Planting Charlie outside clearly wasn't going to happen anytime soon. As I stood there, two kids on the sidewalk waved to me. The boy shouted, "Are you our new neighbor?" "Of course she is," the girl said. "I'm Christian. This is my brother Kyle." "I'm Emily," I said. "Do you want to go ice skating with us?" Christian asked. She pointed to the frozen pond across the street from my house. "We have a few extra pairs of skates at our house." Within an hour I was sitting with Christian and Kyle on the bench next to the pond. The untouched snow bordering the pond glittered in the sun as if a million diamonds were sprinkled across the surface. I studied the ice skates. I knew how to roller skate, but these skates look very different. Okay, go ahead and stop and annotate. Okay, so you should have made note that these are her new friends now, new neighbors, and they've invited her to go ice skating with us. As she's sitting down, putting on these ice skates, she's looking around, and look at the simile that she uses to describe the snow glittered as if a million diamonds were sprinkled. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful imagery right there of the snow. But she doesn't know how to roller skate because she says roller skating is one thing. These look very different. Okay, Christian laced up my skates for me. When I inhaled, an icy air filled my lungs. Kyle wrapped his knit scarf around my neck, pulling it up over my mouth and nose. You'll get used to the cold, he said, grinning. Kyle helped me stand up. Not too bad, I thought. But then I attempted to take a step, and my feet flew out from underneath me, and I landed on the solid ice with a thud. Kyle and Christian hauled me up and supported me on each side as I slipped and stumbled. After a while, I was able to balance on my own. I figured out how to push off and glide, too. By the end of the day, I was able to make tiny, tentative turns on the ice. I almost forgot about Texas as I concentrated on my new friends instead. Let's just finish up this last paragraph. Light shone through the open curtains of the front window of my house across the street, and I could see Charlie on the table inside. We transplants will be all right here, I thought, with a wide grin from beneath the knit scarf. And here's a picture of Charlie sitting there, and they're over there in the pond somewhere looking over here. And she says, us transplants are going to be okay. All right, go ahead and stop. Okay, so you can see that here are some connections that I made. She thought, okay, yeah, I got this. Not too bad. But something else happens. This is almost like the way Patrick was. Yeah, it's going to be simple, but it turns out not to be. So I think that might be the connection that we're going to have to make between these two texts. So she thinks it's going to be okay, but then she falls. Then she gets back up. And by the end of the day, she's making these turns, she's gliding, she made the best of the situation, and then she ended up having fun. Tentative, that word is going to be asked about. Some tentative, if you look at it, it says with caution. With caution. And then finally, she calls her and Charlie transplants. Remember, transplants means to move from one place to another. She says, we transplants are going to be okay. Her and Charlie. So really, everything worked out for the best. Okay, now look over your notes before you take the quiz. Good luck, guys.